Adventurers, welcome back to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. You've got me, Tom, and Lotus, and two of our patrons here. This is the patron chat for September. Welcome to Rob the Princess and Falcon with a Box on. Guys, we are discussing sword singing this week. Lotus and I talked a long bit last week about how we think we may have found the origins of some of the plot that they're going to use in the Elder Scrolls 6 around the Yakutans who become the Red Guards and sword singing and all of that. And so we thought it would be really fun to dive into what I think is going to be a conversation I'm sure they've already had behind the scenes about what actually is sword singing and how do you work that into a game, especially when it's such a vague concept that only gets a little bit of a mention in the lore, but no real clear descriptions. And I have a feeling that this, like Lotus and I talked about, this will be the shout, the theme for the next game, the big special effect, and it's probably going to be more than just, oh, now I sing and a sword shows up. They're going to have to expand it beyond just that. So we're going to toss around this idea and figure out what we can about maybe some predictions and expectations, which should be fun because once the game comes out, we'll figure out how right or wrong we were, which is always fun to look back on things. But welcome back, Falcon and Rob and Lotus. How's everybody doing? Lotus, you good?
I'm good. This should be fun because it can let us talk about, it's fun to just have very little to go on except speculation because you can really take this in some weird directions. And it's small enough that everybody can kind of have more than just a little chime in this episode since there's four of us. Scheduling was a little off this week. So it was like, you know what, we can really just kind of
grab your tinfoil hats.
Yeah, exactly. Get all of the tinfoil in the house and make it into the biggest hat.
Yeah, and Falcon and Rob have both been with us a long time. You guys are deep into the lore. You've played a lot of these games. So here, let's get into it. Let's break this down. Sword singing is what it is called, and we know that there are the Ansai and that they are able to somehow manifest weapons and that they've talked about different swords in the lore. Maybe 5 of them are hidden different places, but that's all very vague. So when you hear sword singing, let's just off the top of your head, right at the beginning, what comes to mind before we get it too deep into the specifics? Rob, you want to start us off? You have any basic expectations for this?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be as tied to weaponry as the name implies. I think a lot about in like Dungeons and Dragons, not the same thing, obviously, but there's going to be some parallels. There's a blade singer type of wizard, and I don't think it's going to be a blade singer from Dungeons and Dragons necessarily, but the point of that is that a blade singer wizard in Dungeons and Dragons can use weapons, but none of their abilities strictly are weapon aligned. They just help with it. And so I see this as sword singing is probably going to be similar to that, where this is going to be a type of magic that is going to buff your character and it's going to give your character unique abilities. And maybe some of those are to you sing and you summon a sword in your hand, because I believe that is something directly quoted in the lore that it can do, but not necessarily something that it will do.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
it could be a leveling system. It could just be a magic system that you could choose to invest into.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, some of the lore about Divad was that they would see glowing lights from his tent. That doesn't necessarily mean that was a weapon that he was summoning that was glowing. It could have been other magic spells that he was casting or something else that was going on behind the
spells
scenes.
And such. Yeah.
Right. Falcon, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I think the issue they would have is separating it from just a bound weapon.
Right.
It can't just be a stronger bound weapon, because that's kind of lame.
Yeah, I mean we can already
do that.
Yeah, we can already summon weapons.
That's very lame.
Yeah. So I think Rob's right. It needs to be some sort of buff system. There's 50 different shouts have a bunch of different buffs you can learn and apply to those weapons, the light, the weapon you have in your hand is then surrounded by this magic in some way.
Right. Okay. So let's, this is great. The great place to start, because I think tackling the singing part of this first is probably the more interesting piece. And by singing, let's talk. Okay, singing is
Black Eyed
probably
Peas.
connected to the Black Eyed Peas is connected to magic. Do you expect something to be as expansive as shouts? Because shouts can do all sorts of different kinds of things in Skyrim. Do you expect that this will be similar or different?
Oh, how humble you are. It's going to be so much bigger.
Okay.
This is Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't go backwards from shouts.
Right.
It will feel like something's missing to a lot of players.
Okay, so what does that mean? How do you then take that up a notch? How do you turn that up to 11?
All right. So this is where I want to kind of jump in because I kind of agree with both of what you guys are saying so far with like almost like a buff type of system. But when when Tom threw this idea over to me and kind of mentioned it, it got me thinking, and I've kind of had it in the background, like, oh, what exactly do I think they're going to do with this? Because again, you kind of can't really go backwards. That's, again,
I mean,
the
as long
fact
as
that
you're
they
drawing comparison and using it as inspiration, you can look backwards, but you
Sure,
still have to move
but
forward with something new.
Yeah, it can be a
Correct, like-
callback. It can be a reference.
Right.
Right,
Just to be
but
clear,
what is
because
it
I know somebody's going to comment on the episode and go, "Well, actually, they go backwards all the time." Yes, of
yeah,
course they
exactly. Well, actually, I don't care.
All of us just push our glasses up together. Actually.
But no, exactly. You can be inspired by what comes before you, but like if you just revert backwards to something, or that's the best you've got, that's not the greatest. What I was thinking, because it's kind of been a long-standing, I don't know, criticism. I don't want to say complaint, but criticism against the Elder Scrolls series is the combat's kind of not one of the strongest points in the series. And I think one thing that they're going to be trying to do is enhance the combat quite a bit. Combos, the way fighting feels and stuff like that. Each game's gotten a little better, but you go play some of the older games and you can definitely understand what the problem is. I think that is going to be a buff system that kind of, the sword singing aspect is going to be part of like the way either combos work or how your combat works with the new combat system.
Ooh.
So like,
Okay.
if you're pulling off more of a combo style thing, I mean, just as an example, like where you kind of had dragon riding, but it was like in Skyrim, but then you had like Dragon's Dogma where you were crawling all over the things.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the next logical step is a more robust, like actual combat system. And I think that's where sword singing is going to come into play. If you manage to do this specific combo, your final attack, you say form a sword that finishes the attack or something like that, and then
Okay.
it just goes in. And that's where I think some of the skill trees relating to sword singing will come from, and that's where you can branch out to make it your sword singing as an RPG.
Interesting. Okay,
That
so
was my thought.
yeah, I like this idea because in Skyrim, in Oblivion, you have a sword, you hit the button, you swing, you hit the button again, you swing, you hit the button
Yes.
again, you swing. But you're discussing something that's more along the lines of you use certain command combos to create a certain pattern, kind of like almost like a fighting game.
Yes, a bit. And I mean, even in the older games, it was kind of a little, this is going to be weird, but one thing that Arena and Daggerfall even did was pulling the mouse in the direction changed the way you
It
would
actually feels
swing.
very nice. I kind of
Yeah,
like it.
And it changed it. Like if you did a top-down swing, it was like, oh, well, it's 15% less likely to hit, but does 15% more damage. Like it actually had that, and it's something that kind of drifted away from the series. And I feel like nowadays you can do a lot more with it, and it won't feel like trying to steer a keg in a shopping cart. It might actually feel
Right.
good to
Yeah.
try to do that stuff. And if you add something like buffs of sword singing to it, I feel like you've got some real open corridors in which you can go down with different skill trees and stuff like that.
Right. Okay, so for a lot of people who don't know, who didn't play those original games, the first two games were only on PC, so you were
Yes.
meant to play with a mouse and keyboard. And a lot of people who play them for the first time are like, how do I attack? What button do I hit? And it's not a button, it's a hold down the mouse and drag across the screen in order to
You're swinging
swing
a
your
sword.
sword,
Yes,
right?
you're
And
literally swinging
it
it.
feels
And we
very
could bring
different
back
from anything
jumping
else.
mechanics from what
It's
is it,
all-
Battle Spire?
Oh boy.
Okay, we're not gonna bring back the upside down triangle pyramid.
Battle
thing
Spire
to
2
jump.
instead of Elder Scrolls
Yeah.
6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would imagine
not.
that in order to incorporate something like that into a game that's also meant for consoles, it's going to be less about, say, dragging your mouse and more about I'm holding walk to the left as I swing in order to swing my sword to the left, and then I'm holding right to swing my sword to the right, or I'm holding forward to
already has
charge
that.
in.
Skyrim had that to an extent. It didn't feel
but
as
expanded.
responsive
Right.
as
Right.
Right. And
Arena was more responsive.
yeah, and
in
the
that
idea then
way.
would be
Right.
not
and
just
the power attacks type of thing. that you
right,
could
yeah,
do.
power attacks and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And it wouldn't just be, it would be less of the, this is a one-off thing because of the way my character's moving,
That was
and
like
more
a
of
constant fluid.
more of a fluid
Exactly.
thing. Like if I go left, right, forward, back, it triggers the 4-hit combo that
Yeah.
ends with some sort of sword singing flourish, like Lotus is saying. So it
Yeah.
takes what is already there and kind of moves it up a notch.
One thing that I can compare it to, which I guess people will probably understand that it's a little less complicated, but more people played it, was Chivalry 2. Kind of had a combat system that felt like this. And if you want to get real deeper in, there's a game called Mordhau, which was basically even more complicated Chivalry. But it really took that to like the nth degree, which is sort of like, maybe don't go quite that extreme with it, but that's like sort of the direction I'm wondering if they'll take it, because it would really tie in, I feel like, to these skills with sword singing, I think.
Yeah. So what you're describing, Lotus, is a combo system that's tied to your perks, and the perks you unlock add flourishes or summons or whatever else happens
Right.
when you use certain combos. So that would be very different than hitting, say, a button to do a shout. I guess the other variation on this would be, do you have a sword singing button that initiates the sword singing and then you form
It
the
augments
combo?
your attacks.
Sure. Yeah. Could you like do it on command? I could see that too. Or like, you've got enough mental prowess. Can you unleash like some type of crazy sword singing combo or something like that?
Yeah,
like
or a
on
combination
command?
of both things together.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if this segues too off topic or not, but would that lead into another question of, do we think that this is a optional system or a mandatory system? Because in Skyrim, a lot of the shouting you can totally ignore. You can do
Yeah.
pretty much no shouting at all and have
You
a
need to know
full character and a
3
full
shouts.
experience.
Yeah. I think it's 3 shouts and that's all
Just
you
Unrelenting Force, Whirlwind.
I would have
Dragon
plenty
Red?
of playthroughs where I would put off the main quest and not even become like known as Dragonborn, so my character would never learn any shouts until like the very end of the game, and then I would like just learn the bare minimum shouts and not do the rest, because I wanted like the restriction of like, oh, I want to do this without any shouts. And you can do that pretty easily, and I'm wondering, can you do this in Elder Scrolls 6 without any sword singing, or is it going to be kind of like, no, this is intrinsic to the combat, you are a sword singer regardless of what you wanted to do?
Well, shouts are a good example. Oftentimes when I play Skyrim, I forget that I can even shout at all. Like most of the time, I just like hacking and
You're a
slashing
pro
and shooting
player.
my bow, and it's because I'm just so good at it. As anyone who's watched my playthroughs has clearly seen. But if it's following the precedent of Skyrim, then it wouldn't be something that's necessary, but it is something that makes combat easier if you do it.
Yeah.
Sure.
I was going to say something similar, that it needs to be more incentivized, because, yeah, I will do the shouts required to complete quests, and that's it.
Right.
It doesn't really do anything for the game besides being those couple quick time events effectively.
And I think that's kind of important to note, because in the series in general, people have been complaining, oftentimes calling it dumbing it down, but it's like some of the open RPG aspects are getting reined in a lot of ways. And Starfield sort of tried to make it like, oh, well, there's more options. And there were in some regards, but you could tell they were a little hesitant to still kind of go too far with it. And that was, again, the complaint. People were like, yeah, this was a great start, but why didn't you let us do more with it? Like,
I think one of the things that people might end up surprised about, because believe me, I've read the comments on our own videos of the pessimists who, for some reason, keep watching Elder Scrolls content yet have lost all faith in Todd and Bethesda or whatever. Go find something else to watch, maybe. But for those of you who are still like, hey, maybe this will be good.
it's fine. They can hate watch our stuff.
Right, I guess
Like an
you
old
can,
guy
appreciate the
screaming at
lore.
Fox News.
Right. Well, thank you for the comments, because you're still promoting our videos. But but one of the things that I think needs to be taken into consideration is, even though Bethesda has made Fallout 4, Fallout 76, and Starfield as mainline games, Bethesda Studio, who made Skyrim, since then, and they've taken those games in different directions, and in some ways, according to different perspectives, dumbed it down or whatever. They haven't made another Elder Scrolls game since then. And I'm sure there are a lot of things the studio has learned since then, especially with these other games. And when you look at the way even just Elder Scrolls plays compared to Fallout, things are different. The perks work differently. The worlds work differently. The freedom
leveling is completely
different. Even in Skyrim, which is more streamlined than Oblivion was, there are ways to break the game that you can't do in any Fallout game. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do rein that back in and lean more into the things that made Elder Scrolls interesting and more of a fun sandbox than some of the more contained story games that they put out with things like Fallout and Starfield. So, and I don't want to derail the conversation too much into that because we could debate this all day. But here, let's take the conversation in a slightly different direction with singing. I like the idea. I like these ideas so far. In fact, I think the whole idea of this is to just be open to all ideas, right? So combo systems, hitting a button and doing something. What about the fact that this is singing? A shout is a sound that comes out of your mouth. Singing also a sound that comes out of your mouth, but it's musical. Do you think that there's going to be a musical element to this? Do you think that we're going to have bards? Do you think that maybe we're going to have harmonizing with our companions?
We're just all going to be Tom Bombadil?
I'm worried that we won't. I think we should, and I don't think that they will.
Interesting. Falcon, you were going to say something too.
I was thinking, since it is, if they want to make it like literally you're singing while it happens, like a D&D style concentration system, you keep these buffs and combos going as long as you can keep yourself singing for.
Right. So does that,
and the more you level it up, the more you can like withstand like attacks throwing your concentration off.
Do you think that means there will be enemies that try to silence you either through magic or binding your mouth? I mean, in any balanced game,
like there are
that sounds
like
hot.
These boss level enemies that do. Yeah, I like that.
In any game balance, you need, if you get a buff, you need some sort of counter to that buff. If anything grows something in one direction, it needs to have weaknesses in another, right? Everything needs to feel like it fits and has counters, right? So the idea that like maybe even you come across enemies who can sword sing, but then you are given abilities to silence them.
I was thinking the opposite, where like you encounter a group of bandits, and now the bandits have like their party wizard essentially with them. Like they have a mage traveling with them that like casts silence on you.
Yeah. I mean, that was my first thought, but then I turned it around the other direction as well. And that could be on your character. That could be a bubble of silence in a zone. So you got to go in that zone to get whatever the thing is in there. But as soon as you step in there, you can't do your sword singing anymore.
Every bandit has earplugs.
And that would be a constant reminder for the players to use it, because like I never had a problem with using the shouts on characters that I wanted to use shouts, but apparently that is a universal experience with the rest of you guys, where you guys just forgot about using it.
Yeah.
You guys missing out. I think shouts was so dynamic.
Oh, shouts are great when I remember they're there.
They're very fun.
Oh yeah.
But so I feel bad that you guys would forget about them. But like, I guess that would be a good way for the developers to remind the players like, oh, you can't sword sing, which is something that you should already be doing.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely fall in the camp of I would not. I never really use them that much either. So
yeah. Okay, so let's talk about companions and like harmonizing in music. Like, what if one thing I would imagine they might expand on is the idea that you can have, I mean, obviously you can have more people follow you around than just one at a time in Skyrim because you just don't turn in their quests or whatever. There's a few ways to do it. But what if you could have one or two companions who then can learn to be sword singers through some quest line or something like that, but then they can sing in harmony with you, which increases the spells that you cast, the combos.
You have to find your alto, your tenor, your baritone.
Yeah. What if you have like this traveling choir? And
that's kind of cool.
And
it's
together,
silly, but it's cool.
Yeah. And even if it's something as simple as it summons a sword from your soul, the swords that get summoned become more powerful and they gain other abilities or other effects because you're getting support from the rest of your crew, and it turns them into something even more crazy looking or whatever.
It sounds like an old Final Fantasy topic. Like one of the old.
It kind of does. It kind of
games
feels
where you're
Japanese in
building up
that
your
weird
party.
kind of way.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. I don't know. It's or maybe instruments play into it. Maybe we've got some traveling band.
That would be kind of cool. Yeah. I mean, I feel like it has to be music based. It is sword singing. They don't just put that name on there for fun. The sword bit can be for fun, I suppose, because like it's already kind of implied that it is more than just sword magic. It seems like that is a core part of it, but it seems to be much more expensive than just a sword. But to say that it's not singing, it's like, well, then what are we? What are we doing here?
Yeah. Do you think that maybe you could even summon multiple swords? Like if you have multiple singers, maybe everybody summons their own sword, or maybe
like 10 floating swords around you, like an
right.
aura.
Yeah, maybe you don't even have to like. They added dual wielding into Skyrim. What if you can more than dual wield? What if there are other weapons that act almost
sick.
like summons that follow you around and attack your enemies as you're hacking and slashing them and doing something like that? Good idea? Yes. Rob's on board for that one.
No, I kind of like that. That's interesting.
Feels very anime. I like it.
But it's also, I mean, isn't there like you can summon a weapon to fight alongside you in Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah, tons of ways.
That's the thing. So I can imagine that would be the case. So any other thoughts on the singing part, like the more magical side? Because I've got some other thoughts on swords I definitely want to get to, but I don't want to close this out.
I'm worried that they're going to be like embarrassed to embrace the musical aspect of it, or they're going to be maybe lazy and say like, oh, we don't want to implement all of that. But no, like it should be like a musical fight. That should be a core part of it. So I hope that they do.
How can it feel separate from shouting? I guess if it is once again vocally based, how can it feel separate? Obviously, to us, since we are like ingrained in Elder Scrolls, since we care about it, it will feel different to us. But to someone who
the average
may
person
or may not have a ton of interest,
right? The reviewer who is like, they just made Skyrim 2
evolution enough, since it is just once again making a voice.
Right.
I feel like it's very different because there was nothing really musical about the shouts.
So I think to Rob's point, adding a musical quality to it, to Lotus's point, having it connect to combos and actual weapon use of your weapons rather than just like pushing somebody off a hill or freezing time or whatever. And then also having, I think the third way would be distinctly different effects, not going back and doing the same things shouts did. And making, or at least doing those things in a very different kind of musical way, or a very specific around your weapons.
Still carrying over and stuff like that.
Some of the
time and stuff unique. Like that. Like while you're humming closing time or something like that, and time slowed down
as you leave the bar. Wow, that's an old reference. To talk about old stuff.
Spoilers, I'm old.
Here's another thought though. Before we move on to swords. Both of these things are vocalizations. Do you think they're going to draw connections into the lore to both of these things being divergencies of the same root core magical? And this isn't like the only thing like tonal magic. Yeah, that's where I was going. Well, this isn't the only kind of magic that is vocalized or has to do with sound. Tonal magic with the Dwemer, singing with the Red Guards, shouting with the Nords. All of these things are tonal.
Yeah, and music in general is just such a heavy underlying feature of this series. It's like
absolutely, Lotus, you're reading my mind. That's exactly the next point I was going to make, is that one of the first things we enjoy about every one of these main games is the theme song and the way the theme song has changed, and the songs just in general in the series, and then listening to people cover them and do YouTube versions of them or all that kind of stuff. So to have a version of songs that are inspired by the music of Skyrim, or in this case, Redguard, and then have your character even be embodying that in the world seems like a very, obvious connection once you think about it.
I didn't even think about the main song. I'm excited for that now. You're so right. That's going to be a really cool new main theme because they're going to add to that for sure with those aspects. But I think it's definitely, I'm losing track. What was the initial question?
It was about the connection to the Thume and the vocalization.
Tonal magic and all that.
Tonal magic,
I don't think that they're going to outright say that there are connections, but we're definitely probably going to get like more hints about the similarities because there already have been people drawing parallels between the Dwemer tonal magic and the Thu'um, and they're like, oh, those are both magic based off of sound, and so I wonder how similar those are. So we'll probably see more hints and nudges like, oh, look how parallel these things are, but they're probably still going to imply that they're very different because that's what they've done throughout all of the games.
Dwemer coming back, returned. Like they're returning. It's confirmed. They're back.
Please don't confirm that. No,
I don't expect this will happen at all. But
there is Dwemer ruins in the
there are
Iliac Bay and all that. So
it's true. It's true.
That's probably where it's going to be.
I would expect that we will have Dwemer stuff. I just don't expect that we're going to get a return of the Dwemer. So that makes sense to me.
I guess if you're a coward.
Well, let's move on. Let's move on to swords. Rob, you mentioned something, how swords don't necessarily have to be limited to a sword, like that one shape of weaponry. Sword could just be shorthand because of the alliteration sword singing and the fact that maybe the regatta preferred using swords like their curved blades. But swords could mean something beyond just swords. It could be any type of weapon. What do you guys think about that?
Does anyone want to go before me? Because I have a lot to say. I don't know.
I would say go for it.
Take us away.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to try not to get too off topic here, but the regatta are super obsessed with swords themselves. It is their culture is 100% about swords. So obviously that is why the name is sword singing. And to say that it has to be a sword is really just a cultural purist who's saying that. I don't think there's any hard restriction that says otherwise that it has to be a sword, unless the games really want to lean into that and say, no, we're sticking to the purest of iterations of this. But I don't think they will. We're probably going to see any kind of weapon, or maybe potentially no kind of weapon, and you can just channel you as like your energy as a person, and like your unarmed damage will be impacted by this, or your magical damage with your spells will be impacted by this potentially. I don't think they'll go that far, but I do think it would make sense to have this extend to any weapon that you're wielding, or maybe any one single weapon that you're wielding, because I do think it might have like a strong bond to a weapon, so that the game may ask you to choose a weapon and commit to it, and then you can change your weapon as your character goes on, because that would be really dumb if you can't, but it's going to be a bigger deal to like you're committing to a weapon each time.
Do you think it's going to be like in the lore, it talks about they summon these with their souls, and souls we know are a source of energy. They go into soul gems and things like that. Do you think that for each individual, the weapon type that is summoned from their soul is more representative of them as an individual? And I like where you're going with this, the idea of maybe even in the character creation screen, you choose certain things that define the kind of weapon that you summon based on who you are.
Maybe like the star sign that you're born under?
Maybe, yeah, maybe. Or the culture you come from. Maybe, because this is another thing, and I think people are going to probably get up in arms about this. They're going to be like, well, the only sword singers were from Yakuta, so it can only be Red Guards. But in every Elder Scrolls game, you get to pick your character and your class and your race. So you're going to have to...
as a Red Guard, if that's the case. I mean, you can change it to whatever you want.
Right. They're not going to make you only play as a Red Guard. So if you wanted to be an Argonian, then if an Argonian learns to sword sing, do they summon something different?
Yeah, all they've said is... Oops, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, all they've said so far is it's been Red Guards, not that it is impossible for other races to learn. So there is no reason they could restrict it.
Yeah, you don't have to be a Nord in Skyrim.
Would want you to,
right?
Correct.
Like you can be anything in Skyrim and still, still use the Thu'um. So, okay, so let's think through this.
Historically, all tongues were Nords, and if you look at the text, they're all Nords that have the power of the Thu'um, but they're explicitly stating nothing about that was required. That's just what you see in most common. Because that's their culture.
Taking this more extreme, the Nerevarine doesn't need to be a dark elf.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be anything.
You can do whatever you want.
Right. The prisoner is the prisoner. And the fact that they're able to do the things is because they are the one who can make change. They are the ones who can define and change the direction of reality in the world. Right. So it doesn't matter what culture they come from, as long as they are the prisoner. So if we were to so I would imagine red guards would have curved swords because that feels traditional. Would a Nord
Curved
have like a
swords.
giant double like a giant claymore? Like if you were to pick one for each of the main races, what would they have?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think Claymore's right for Nords.
Claymores for Nords.
Yeah, like a big giant unwieldy two-handed, and then Imperial's got to be just like
a
a
straight
gladius,
sword.
right?
Like like a gladius kind of style sword. For Khajiit, is it daggers
I think it's a dagger, or maybe just a short sword,
Or a
like,
bow?
Claws
claws, fist weapons?
make the sword singing an extension
Oh,
of
claws for
themselves and not of
Argonians?
their weapon.
Oh man, or maybe there's different selections for different races. Maybe you get a few options.
Yeah, because to say like, oh, you're an Argonian, so you have to use this. It's like, well,
Yeah.
they're not going to do that.
That-
They
yeah,
might
it's-
have extra options.
So
Yeah.
that was immediately going to be my thing. I was like, because immediately I'm going to pick whatever I want, and then it's not going to sync with the weapon, and I'm going to be mad about it if they did that.
That's true. That's true. But okay, but let's just say like, what is the most common thing for the culture then? So orcs, would it be something like axes or maces?
Hammers.
Hammers?
Yeah, I think big Warhammer.
Big
Yeah, big
warhammer.
warhammer.
I guess the
Sure.
mace works as well, and maybe they'll
Yeah,
have
for the
like
tiny orcs.
a one-handed, a two-handed, and a ranged option for all
Yeah.
cultures. That
Yeah.
seems a bit. I don't think they do that for every single culture, but that would
Maybe.
be cool if they did.
Maybe. So like Bosmer makes sense for bow because they're kind of the Legolas
Yeah.
race. But what about
The
like
Legolas race, not so just the one-person race.
just the one person race? But that was the like fan fiction version in everyone's brains when
Yeah.
Oblivion came out. But what about like Altmer and Dunmer? What do you see for them?
Pain and suffering.
Pain and suffering.
Unplayable.
Yeah,
I mean, what about
No.
staves? Like, could you summon a
think-
staff?
I think
No,
an
the
Almer
alts-
would just have a good old traditional longsword.
yeah, no, they'll probably or a monocle just so I can make fun of them.
Dunmere, I mean, they would have like
I think they'd be daggers too.
I was thinking more
Daggers
like a
make
machete,
sense.
not like so Red Guard have their curved swords,
Scimitar.
but then you have like a slightly different curved blade for the Dunmere because they have like Chris's and all these like curved
Sure,
designs in their
sure.
architecture.
Yeah, fancy blades.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you pick if you could design your own soul weapon?
Oh, hammer, easy.
You're going hammer. Yeah, Rob's going hammer. That makes sense.
Which is what I would associate with the orcs as well, and that's not a coincidence.
T-Dub in chat says Dark Elves could summon a slave? Question mark. Oh no.
God.
Oh.
It's always an Argonian.
Oh.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's dark, but you know what?
It's Dark
if it was-
Elf.
They are Dark Elves. Yeah.
Nice. If it was one of the old games, I actually feel like that would probably be accurate. But
What do you think, Lotus? What
so
weapon would you summon?
I'm such a like longsword fan.
Okay.
But you can do a lot with longswords, so I don't know, it'd be kind of neat if you could like customize like the hilt and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is that because
Yeah.
your love of high elves?
Or the
No,
blade.
they get a monocle. I already told you.
You want no, but you know what Lotus wants is a glass longsword with a really fancy glass
Correct.
blade. Yes,
That's valid.
yes, absolutely. Falcon, what would you make? What would you have?
For like physical weapons, it would be like unarmed.
So would you summon like magic gloves or like I don't know, something
Put
with
'em up.
claws on it or like
Yeah, like you,
like a fist, like a what's it called when you put like you put it on and you punch people and hits them harder because there's metal there.
brass knuckles.
Brass knuckles, like soul
Yeah,
brass
just
knuckles.
Yeah, I guess I don't know how it would quite work for unarmed, but that's just the combat I like.
Sure, I mean a glove type weapon would make sense.
Yeah.
And then chat, I got a suggestion for katana, which would make sense for
Akaviri.
Akaviri. There we
Yeah.
go. Yes, I was like, if
Yeah.
we had like an Akaviri
A bunch of-
tie-in.
Yeah. No, I think that could work as well. For me, I would, I think it'd be really cool to have like a soul bow, like a bow that does really cool I mean, you can summon a bow now, and it looks cool, like in Skyrim.
Stealth Archer classic.
But the classic Stealth Archer, but even not stealth, maybe even a bow that works in a more melee, like closer range kind of thing, because you can shoot more quickly.
Sure.
But then maybe you can still parry with it because it won't break because it's not like a wooden weapon.
The unclassic, very loud archer, where you have like an air horn on the thing, so you draw attention to you. And
Every time you shoot an arrow, it's got like a whistle on it that's like, "Hey, look at me." Okay,
Do
so
we think spears
would be cool.
Oh, we haven't had spears in so many games.
Yeah,
It's gonna play as a Reichling.
Mhm.
I feel like it's time to bring them back.
I think there are a number of types of weapons that they don't include. So we could go through a list of those as well. Spears. What about
Grenades.
like grenades? What about machine guns? What about like morning stars?
Weapons of mass destruction.
Morning stars are interesting.
Oh no, am I ran?
Have they?
What do you think about morning stars? Do you think would you want that?
That'd be cool. I mean, it's essentially just a mace with a different style.
Mhm.
Right.
Flails.
Yeah, flails.
Yeah, like a flails. Those have not been in games since
Other
like,
pole
Arena.
arms like glaives and halberds and pikes.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I mean, if you look back on history, things like halberds and pikes, and they were actually way more common than swords, especially for
a spear is the most
soldiers.
popular type of weapon.
Right.
Yeah. What about whips?
I'm into it. Is that not what we're
I mean, that
Rob's
goes
into
with
whips,
the
everybody.
Dark elves and their slaves, I guess.
I was gonna say, is that like a dark elf thing again? Yeah.
Oh
Maybe.
god, yeah, that would be their weapon.
That's the dark elf weapon.
You know that people would fixate totally on
God.
that.
They're gonna make a mod for that if they don't.
That's
More racist dark elves.
yeah, that's valid. Or that's the name of the mod.
Yeah.
So I think so let's take this weapon thing just a little bit further. One of the things that I get the sense that at
Make
least a lot of
Morrowind
people
great
would
again.
probably think about with thanks Rob summoning a sword, and the fact that in the lore they seem like they glow. At least it seems like they glow when he's in the tent or whatever. This seems very similar to something like a lightsaber, which if you were to summon a weapon, it's got to look different than just a regular common weapon. So the fact that it glows or something like that. But what other kinds of effects would you want to see with a summoned weapon, if that's the direction they actually go with it? Do you want just like blades that look like they're on fire and shoot lightning, or is there something even more interesting than that?
My answer is a non-answer. I think it would be more like we would summon an energy to augment your weapon more than summon the weapon itself.
So what would that look like once you've augmented your weapon? Is it just glowy now? But we already have glowy weapons like Dawnbringer.
So one of the things that I think the
Have you
series
bought
doesn't.
the DLC?
Yeah, well, it's true. It's a DLC pack.
They're gonna micromanage that.
One of the things they do, it's the Dramathra style sort of does it in Elder Scrolls Online, but some of the custom weapons, I think one of the swords you get from Solstheim in the Dragonborn expansion has it. But when they have like the etched runes into the weapons, that just that part glows, so it looks like there's a power in the weapon that's glowing
Like the
through.
stall rim? Is that
Yeah, but like there's that one where you can, I forget the name of the weapon. People can yell at me in the comments because I definitely should remember the name of this. But you used it to solve one of the door puzzles to fight the big giant on Solstheim, where you would swing it and the like red.
Oh, I always put
line
that
would
quest
come out.
off. I
Blood
don't know.
Skull?
Thank you. That's the one. And it's got like the glow from inside the weapon. I always think that's really cool when like the effect is like cracking through the standard looking weapon.
Yeah. So rather than just like a glowy
instead of, like,
boundary
a
around
halo,
the outside.
it's-
Yeah,
Right.
it's like, oh, the weapon's
Daedric
cracked
weapons
and it's
are
got
often-
lightning through it.
Those are
something
just the
like-
aesthetic of like an ebony weapon with like red glowy runes in
yeah,
Daedric.
Right,
stuff.
right.
So it'd be like that, but without the Daedric aesthetic, but something
Yeah.
like that.
So yeah, that style type of thing. I always think that's a pretty cool looking aesthetic.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I like that. Now you mentioned ESO. We do have a number of glowy weapon types. I mean,
Sure do.
as ESO has gone on, the mounts and the
We got
weapons
glowy
have all
everything,
become more
Tom.
glowy.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that they would need to take this in a different direction other than just glowy. It would have to be something very specific or very specific effect to define this as a soul summoned weapon, that kind of thing, right?
Right. Because otherwise it just comes across like a skin that you'd buy in a store, to Rob's point.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, they're gonna have a DLC for that, right? Like,
Do you think we get different effects while it's in motion, like a trail when you swing,
Oh, that could be cool looking.
I think so.
or when you stab things with it? Does it leave certain effects on the character that you stab? Like it like creates like a glowing hole with cracks or something more than just like, oh, there's a bloody mark on them.
This also goes back into when I first brought this up, I was like, this could be its own leveling system. So maybe we progress the sword singing in a direction that your character wants to take the sword singing. Does it go into these high pitches that are about light and radiance, or do we go into these low pitches that are about darkness and pain? And maybe that changes the aesthetic, and maybe there's an elemental association with it, maybe not. Kind of hope they don't go straight to the elements, because that makes it feel like the same as all of the other magic things that they just slap. Here's your fire thing. Here's your ice thing, and here's your electric thing. So hopefully something more than that, but it would be cool to have like the type of singing that you do affect the impact and the aesthetics of your magic.
So this is a really interesting point, Rob, because I hadn't considered this. The idea that it is tied to your soul, and maybe there's an element of decision making, the things you do, that has like a morality shift, maybe Paragon Renegade, like in Mass Effect or something like that. And so the effects of your sword then mirror that in certain ways based on the decisions that you've made in the world. That could be really cool. Or
I was thinking just like leveling choices that you choose independently, but it would be cool to have that reflect from your choices.
Yeah, either way,
as a character.
Yeah. But here's another piece of that. If you align yourself with certain powers, like certain Daedra, does that, like if you, for example, give your soul to a Daedric prince, does that then affect the way that soul forms into a weapon?
Like extra tentacles.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, like extra tentacles with Hermaeus Mora, or I don't know, Mehrunes Dagon, and it turns like super dark and like
you have
red.
Like a tempest around your fist as you're holding the weapon or something.
Yeah.
Guys just throw up if you parryite.
Yes.
Yeah. Or it has secondary effects, like it spreads disease, or maybe you walk into a town and you can't summon it.
You're holding like a rusted blade that's like decaying at the end.
Yeah. Or maybe you can't summon your blade in a town because it will infect people and they'll get sick and they'll kick you out of the town. Or there could be all sorts of other effects. But then what if you align yourself with Aedra? What if you're, a good person who worships at the temple and venerates the Aedra?
They can just not bother coding any of that because no one's going to do that.
Yeah. And I'm putting this in quotes as good person because this is like the more traditional faith, right? But the Yakutans are also different because, the people, the Red Guards who come from Yakuta have their own gods. And, Tal Papa, what if you align yourself with Tal Papa? Does that affect the way that you summon your sword and the kinds of things it can do? I don't know. Could go all sorts of different
really
directions.
Awesome.
Would the Daedric influence take away from your sword singing because that takes away from the purity of what sword singing is?
Right. Or what if let's go back to the cultures. What if you were a Nord who believes in the Nord pantheon and Sovereign Guard? Does that mean that you summon things? And do you become Thor all of a sudden and Mjolnir is your summon? I don't know.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I kind of like that. And also like, as somebody who likes to not make a billion characters, but do everything on one character, what would that look like if I was like friends with all the Daedric princes and all the Aedra, and it's just this giant amorphous pile of crap that doesn't even look like a weapon anymore?
Right. Or maybe it doesn't even just change one. Maybe you get different options of things to summon. Maybe you can summon multiple blades or different weapons.
It goes back to committing to a weapon. So if you have all these connections, maybe it gives you choice to the weapon you want to commit to, but you still commit to a weapon.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah. All right, man. These are some really cool ideas. Now that we've figured this all out for Bethesda, I hope they're listening and they implement everything we came up with into the game, because I'm sure that's how game design works. You just implement everything. It has nothing to do with refining.
In 2 years now, so they better pay attention, take notes, and hurry up.
Yeah, but no matter what they decide to go with, I hope it's something cool. Whether we were completely on or completely off with any of these ideas. Any last thoughts? We got to wrap up the episode. Any last thoughts about sword singing and
it's
things?
that time already.
And things like this is what happens when you have a fun conversation. Time goes by. Rob, do you have any last thoughts about sword singing and summoning weapons and any of that stuff? Anything we haven't covered yet that comes to mind?
I mean, I feel like so much, but nothing I can condense in like the next 10 seconds. So I hope they do good. I'm just excited for it.
I hope they do good.
I hope they do good too.
Don't screw it up, guys, or else.
Or else people won't buy it, or they'll buy it and then they'll be sad.
Sure, that's what I was implying.
Poorly reviewed. Yeah,
they'll just buy it and then review bomb it, and then everybody won't care.
Yeah. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Falcon, what do you think? Any last thoughts? Anything else that's come to mind that we haven't covered?
I hope we're completely wrong and it's not in Hammerfell, so all this speculation and talk is for nothing.
I sort of do too, that I hope they just go in a totally different direction. I'm like, all these ideas made so much sense, and we weren't right about any of them.
Oh yeah, it's in Atmora, actually. Sorry, guys.
They did have a little off topic, but not really. They're working on a Shrek sequel, right?
Okay.
And then they announced they're working on a Shrek sequel, and they put an image out, and a bunch of people on the internet just start talking about exactly what they think the plotline of Shrek is going to be. And then within like a month, we get an announcement that they are delaying plans for Shrek. And everyone's like, oh, we nailed the guess. Like we nailed exactly what the story was, and now they have to go write another movie because we got exactly what they were going to do.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that kind of what happened with Lost? Is that everyone figured out that they were in purgatory, and then they had to go, okay, we need to rewrite the final season.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, the writers are listening to this episode right now, and all the other episodes that we've ever mentioned about Elder Scrolls 6. And like, damn it, that's exactly what we had.
We're the reason it's taking so long? It's our fault.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
I should have known we were to blame all along.
Crap, I should be bad. I should get worse at guessing things. Lotus, we're too good.
So the next game is just Fallout.
Screw it, we're just doing Fallout. Sorry, everyone.
Sorry, everyone.
Well, I hope. I guess it's. I mean, I'm okay with it not being in Hammerfell. If we're totally wrong about that too, as long as it's a good game, really
as long
does.
As it's fun, I don't care.
Yeah. Lotus, any last thoughts from you about sword singing?
No, not really. I actually thought some of these were some pretty cool ideas, and even if like any of the stuff is in the game or versions of it, they all sound like they have strong potential. I'm just like, as much as we like to speculate about it, I'm just so interested to hear what is coming when we finally get the information. Yeah, me too. Well, we're getting close to the end of the show. Before we wrap everything up and say goodbye to everybody, we have to shout out our newest patron, Caden C. Welcome to the Patreon. So glad that you decided to join us. If you'd like to sign up on Patreon and join us for chats like this, or ad-free episodes, or t-shirts and stickers and other stuff, then head over to patreon.com/Elder Scrolls Lorecast. And I also have to shout out Kira C, Peter R, and Austin B for being our Daedric princes. They get shout outs every week. And don't have any new reviews on Apple Podcasts, but if you'd like to get your words on the show, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'll read it out on a future episode as long as we can see it here in the US. And guys, I have a random page. You want to do the random page before we say our goodbyes? Please be sword singing.
Nothing more.
It's not sword singing. I wish it was. I can here. I'll hit it one more time just to see. Nope, not sword singing. Didn't get it on that try either. All right, so this is the one that popped up. Aglock Clan Champion from Elder Scrolls Online. People. Do you guys remember this at all?
My boy Aglock. Everyone knows Aglock. You don't remember Aglock?
Aglock Clan champions are orc knights of the Aglock clan.
It's not a person.
Found in Torog's Spite. Location, Torog's Spite. Race, orc. Gender, female. This one in particular is female.
Ooh.
Health, 31,364. Reaction, hostile. Class, knight. Factions, Aglock clan. So
is
much
it
information.
AG or UG?
AGLUK.
Okay.
They do have skills and special abilities, though, which include
I'm so proud of them.
Quick Strike, Fiery Breath, and Lava Whip.
Oh, Fiery Breath. How
dragon
interesting.
Knights. When you said you were a knight, I was like, what the hell class is that?
Yeah, it must be a dragon
knight.
knight.
An ESO class, but okay, dragon knight.
Yeah. In fact, if you click on the knight link, it heads over to knights are a class of hostile humanoid dragon knight NPCs. So
Gotcha.
specifically Dragon Knights.
Now I'm curious about these guys. It was an AGLA
AGLUK. Agluk.
UK.
Agluk. Yeah, this feels totally up your bailiwick. That's not a word that you would use in
The
that way.
Rothgarian Mountains.
So there you go. Agluk
What
Clan
was,
Champions.
what was that word? Bailiwick?
Bailiwick. Yeah, that's a fun one. People in the South use the word bailiwick sometimes. Go look
I don't
that
think
up.
they do. I think you're making that up.
Nope, I worked with somebody who did all the time, and that's why it's in my brain. That's my bailiwick, and I'm like, that's a weird thing to say. But hey, let's go back through. Feel free to shout out things, and we're gonna wrap up this episode because we're going weird other places. Falcon, you're the first patron on my screen. Thanks for joining us. Anything you want to share with the world or put out into the universe, or I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's always fun coming on this. No, I don't really do much.
All right. Well, hey, I'm glad you're here, and thanks for your suggestions and ideas. Maybe we'll get to see some of this stuff actually happen. I guess we'll have to wait and find out. But thanks for joining us, Falcon. Rob, also, good to see you again.
I also exist, yes. I will, if anyone in Vegas is listening or in the Vegas area is listening, I will be at the Las Vegas Ren Fair coming soon. It's in like 2 weeks. I'm excited.
Fun.
We're going to be performing on stage and stuff, and it's going to be a great time.
Are you going to be in a tub with Geralt of Rivia, just like you are in your screen right now?
Every
Is that what you
waking
mean
moment
by
of my life.
perform on stage?
Oh, boy, not that kind of performance, no.
It's not bath time with Geralt.
No. But yeah, so shout out to that. That's always exciting when that time of the year comes around. Otherwise, hopefully, the last time I shout out Sky Oblivion will be coming up soon because it's coming up soon.
Right on the horizon.
Be sure to check that project. And yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm on the Discord, whatever. Blue Sky too. I don't post. I exist.
Lurking.
Yeah, that's why you have to tune in here for all your Rob the Princess goodness. Well, thanks for joining us, Rob. Lotus, you got stuff?
I do. What do you call it? I really just kind of working. I mean, we haven't recorded another episode of Tales yet, but we're actually planning to hopefully this weekend or at the start of this next week. So coming up, you should have an episode of Tales soon. And there is plans to have it's a couple weeks away, but the October 13th will be the Writhing Wall event if you play ESO, where like the story will progress, and it's a big group thing where we basically have to work per server to break down this wall and siege through to the other side of the island to unlock the other half of the year's worth of content, which is pretty cool. It's going to be a server race, and all servers go live at the same time. There's no delay until console, which is kind of interesting, as that's not too common. But as a result, I decided to be a degenerate and take a few days off work. So I'm going to be on that a whole bunch. So most likely, I mean, we'll record before that actually happens. But stay tuned because the goal is to actually, with all this requests, I do hope to stream some of that for everybody. So hopefully I will be able to resume some streams for that and share my ridiculous experiences with everybody. But stay tuned for upcoming tales pretty soon. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the moment.
Well, based on our previous conversations, you're working too much anyway. So you need time off.
That is true.
You do too much work. So take a break. Enjoy some ESO.
Yes.
Capitalism is consuming you.
Yeah.
I know, but they pay me lots of money.
That's what I said.
Yeah, there's also that. Yeah, but yeah, good luck with all that. I hope you enjoy it, and work and just chill out and just deal with it for a few days.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, check out Tales of Tamriel. Check out my other shows, the Fallout Lorecast and the Lord of the Rings Lorecast. I also have another project that's releasing sometime in the next few weeks. We're getting there. We're trying to build up some stuff so we can get everything out, and I'll have more news about that in the future. Also, you can join us on robotsradio.net if you're looking for other shows on the network. Lots of cool stuff about video games and fantasy and nerd topics, and all, you guys know how this works. All right. Thanks everybody for being here. Chat, thank you for joining us as well. Lotus and I will be back next week with another topic. It's going to be fun. Maybe diving more into if we can dig up any more Daggerfall books and lore, or maybe we'll move on to another one of the games in the series. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But we'll see you next time. Stay safe out there.
Have a great one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. Check out robotsradio.net for more podcasts just like this, and join us on the Robots Radio Discord. Be part of a community of over 5,000 people who are excited about video games and so much more. Robots Radio. Games, lore, stories, community. Just press play.